My friend Vova, I talked about him a few episodes ago. He just started doing the Formula One challenge where he makes a video every day about Formula One as he is learning it. The reason for that is because the total addressable market for Formula One is growing and has been growing for years now. And it is very undersaturated with content creators who can make good short form content about it. And the interest is growing. That is something that I noticed about a year and a half ago. And I was looking at it on Google Trends. And if you look at Formula One on Google Trends, especially for the United States, you just see that it's going up. And my friend Vova, he saw this and he's like, I'm going to do this. At the same time, another friend of mine, his name is Elad. He's a relationship coach and he is starting on X. He's starting on X. He's going to be posting every day on X. And I just went on a podcast to talk about this. And that's why I want to talk about this here. Because Vova sent me one of his videos. Actually, it was his first video. He sent me his first video. And I want to tell you, it was okay. But there were a million problems with it. There were so many different little things that he was doing wrong. And he's like, what do you think? And instead of telling him all the little ways that he could improve it, or even the big ways that he could improve it, I sent him a screenshot about MrBeast written by Shaan Puri of My First Million. And Shaan Puri, he put out this great newsletter, and it's 9 keys to building an audience. That is a newsletter he put out. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Maybe I should. The whole thing is really good. You know what? I'm going to read it. All right. I'm going with the flow on today's episode. I didn't intend on reading it, but it's really good. And it promotes Shaan Puri's newsletter. So if you want to read it yourself, you can join his newsletter. You can just go to ShaanPuri.com to join. I'm going to read this. I didn't intend on reading it on this episode, but I'm feeling really good. And there were a lot of gems in here, a lot of the stuff that I say. And to me, this comes natural because I've been talking about it nonstop for 411 episodes. And a lot of you probably know this, but to hear it from somebody else as well, to hear it from Shaan Puri and to have it written well, I think you'll enjoy it. So the question that Shaan got was, Uncle Shaan, if you were starting from scratch and building an audience from zero in 2024, how would you do it? What advice would you have for me as a content creator who's just getting started? That was Tony from Miami asking Shaan Puri this. Shaan responds, Tony, you hit me with a question so good. I'm not even going to bother asking if your real name is Tony or Anthony. First, let me flash you my credentials like an FBI officer flashes their badge when they enter the crime scene. In the past 5 years, I've built audiences of 500,000 plus email subscribers, 400,000 plus Twitter followers, 500,000 plus YouTube subscribers, 100 million plus total downloads of my podcast. And not just for me, I did it for me, my company, and my podcast. So while there are many ways to peel a banana, all I know is the way that I do it. I'll skip the obvious advice and share the 9 non-obvious lessons I've learned building a big ass audience. Here we go. Lesson number 1, forget the numbers, focus on who follows me, not how many people follow me. Tim Ferriss once said, and this stuck in my head, would you rather 100,000 Americans chosen at random read your book, or be invisible to them but have every attendee of Davos love your work? Obviously the latter. Obviously every attendee at Davos versus the random 100,000 Americans. Obsessing over the number of subscribers and followers is like watching grass grow. It's time consuming and it doesn't speed up the process. I try to ignore numbers. Instead, I focus on who loves my content. By the way, this advice is surprisingly hard to follow. First, the platform shoved the numbers in my face. And on YouTube, it's worse because I know that everyone else can see the numbers too. But the good news is everyone else falls into this trap as well. It is actually a competitive advantage to ignore the view counts and focus on quality instead of quantity. I'll give you a car analogy. And this is dangerous because I'm the one man on earth who knows absolutely nothing about cars, but I'm going to give it a try. General Motors sells 2.6 million cars a year, and the company is worth $50 billion. Ferrari only sells 13,000 cars a year, but the company is worth $80 billion. Ferrari has 200 times less customers than General Motors, but it is still more valuable. Why? Because they are luxury. They sell to high-end customers. Every one customer for them is worth 200 plus customers for their competitors. Similarly, if Elon Musk loves my blog, that one reader is worth a lot more than 100,000 TikTok views from people who pick boogers all day. Quality matters more than quantity. Lesson number 2. What should I talk about? My trainer has a great motto. The product is just you pushed out. I call this finding your inner nerd. What is the thing that you nerd out about the most? The thing that you have an insatiable thirst for? The thing that looks boring or even like work to others, but it feels like play to you? For me, that's SEO. I love SEO. And for a lot of people, it feels like work. For me, it's very fun. I can easily obsess about it. Social media as well, just digital marketing. Really SEO and now social media. Shaan Puri continues, I remember going to my uncle's house one time and he took me down to the basement to show me don't worry, it's not that kind of story, his model train set. Every night he'd spend hours in the basement tinkering and assembling an elaborate train set. He flicked it on proudly and the train went in a circle. He was beaming at me with a huge smile while I thought to myself, wow, my uncle is the world's biggest dork. But actually, for content, I want to be the basement model train guy. Except instead of doing it in the basement, take the thing I nerd out about and do it publicly for the world to see. That's why you see huge creators that do the most random stuff. Like the dye workwear guy who just loves nerding out about men's style. He writes 1,000-word analyses on what pant length men should have on their suits, and it's fun for him. This does 2 things. It eliminates competition. Very few people have the same taste palette as me, and it makes success a guarantee. If my only way of measuring success is, am I famous with millions of followers yet? If that's the only way that I measure success, I'm going to be unhappy for a long time. But if I unleash my inner nerd, I'll be having so much fun every day that every day feels like a win. That's what it feels like for me. Just for me to be able to wake up every day and talk about things that I'm passionate about on TikTok and on this podcast and on Instagram Reels, it's amazing. And that keeps me going at it every single day. I'm able to do it every single day because I find it so fun. And I'm able to do it for years. Shaan continues, I shift the odds of success from 1% to 100% because I win by playing versus only winning by winning. Lesson number 3, build a magnet, not an audience. I think of content as a giant magnet. It should attract the type of people I want in my life. Every blog, every podcast, every video should be a honeypot to find like-minded people. The internet is a geography vaporizer. I love that. I love watching old Berkshire Hathaway meetings, playing basketball, and building startups. There's not a single person in the neighborhood I grew up in that likes those things. The internet makes it easy to find the 10,000 people who share my flavor of weird. My goal is to build a magnet, not an audience. Lesson number 4, remember the 5 Ds. Most people want to be famous, but I have a different goal. I don't want to be well known. I want to be known well. What does it mean to know me well? I have to share stories, hopes, dreams, fears, and obsessions. I call these the 5 Ds. Done. What have I done? What's my track record? Deliver. What do I offer to people who follow me? Do. What do I do for work, for fun? Dreams. What am I shooting for? What's the dream? For example, Gary Vee wants to buy the Jets. Dork out. What am I really into? What do I collect? 5 Ds. Done, deliver, do, dreams, dork out. This gives me 2 wins. Number 1, audience feels more connection because they know about me. Number 2, I get luckier. Luckier? Yeah, that surprised me too. But by sharing the 5 Ds, my fans know what links to send me, so obscure stories of rich people, what books to recommend to me, I'm studying comedy and storytelling right now, and what deals to send me. 1 million plus annual cash flow, bootstrapped, but need growth help. So he gets crazy opportunities that he wouldn't have otherwise gotten. Lesson number 5. Okay, this is getting long, but you're still here. Weird, right? That's because there's no such thing as too long, only too boring. Lesson number 6. Don't worry about your writing style or production quality. And I just made a video about this yesterday because of this newsletter. A+ content with C- delivery is a great starting point. C- content with A+ delivery is a death trap. Oh man, that is great. A+ content with C- delivery is a great starting point. C- content with A+ delivery is a death trap. Don't waste hours on packaging. Instead, spend years living an interesting life so you actually have something interesting to say. Just look at Joe Rogan's first podcast episode. Ugly webcam, snowflake video effects, living room lighting, just normal lighting, no microphone. The frame rate is like 3 frames a second. Fast forward to today, Rogan is the king of podcasts. Why? Because he focused on content first and packaging later. Lesson number 7, create a binge bank. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing with this podcast and my daily Instagram reels and TikToks and my newsletter, which I syndicate to the articles section on edwardsturm.com. With all of this, I love this concept. At the beginning, my numbers were small, which led to doubts. I started to think to myself, what's the point of even doing this? Here's the trick. Instead of thinking about the 8 people that will view my content today, I told myself I was building a binge bank. A binge bank is like a personal Netflix binge-worthy show. It's 1 hour worth of content that if someone consumed, they would love me. So I tricked myself into thinking that in the future, people will discover my content, click to learn more, and fall into my binge bank. Lesson number 8. People don't want information, they want a feeling. I started thinking of my channel as a little shop at the world's most crowded flea market. I'm not selling things, I'm selling a feeling. David Blaine sells the feeling of awe. James Clear sells the feeling of self-control. The UFC sells holy shit moments live on pay-per-view. Tony Robbins sells motivation. CrossFit sells a satisfying sweat. Give them the feeling once or twice and you'll get a follow. Give them the feeling every day and you will get a lifelong fan. I figured out which feeling I wanted to sell, then I did it consistently. And this last lesson, this is the one that I sent to my friend Vova, who was just starting making daily Formula One videos, because he asked me, what do you think? And I said to him the same advice that MrBeast said. I literally just copied this and pasted it to him. I attributed it to Shaan Puri and to MrBeast, and it, I think, is very good, and it is a good way to end this newsletter and this podcast. So, lesson number 9, be so good they can't ignore you. Shaan goes, I've become friends with MrBeast over the past few years, and I love his attitude towards winning. Here's the advice he gives when people ask him how to become a successful YouTuber. Make 100 videos, and every video try to do one thing better. Maybe it's the hook, or the thumbnail, or storytelling, whatever. Just make one thing better every time, then come back and talk to me after 100. This is amazing advice because it works, and because it gets rid of the unserious people. Almost nobody takes the advice, so it gets rid of the people who aren't going to actually put in the work. And for the people that do take the advice, for the people who do put in the work, by the 100th video, they don't need MrBeast's advice anymore. They figured it out themselves. He also has a great line for people who whine and moan about the algorithm. Anytime you want to blame the algorithm, replace it with the word people. So don't say the algorithm doesn't like my video, say people don't like my video. The algorithm simply serves people videos that they like to watch. If you're failing, it's a skill issue. Remember, content is a skill, it's a muscle that can be developed, it takes reps. And if you want to win, the foolproof strategy is simple. Become so good, they can't ignore you. That is from Shaan Puri at ShaanPuri.com. I will say about the algorithm, if videos are uploaded in the wrong way, that is the only thing that can kind of make a difference. Or if it's about a topic that is not allowed, that can also make a difference. But from my experience, a lot of platforms now are more open. TikTok especially, it's more open for telling you if your video has suppressed reach. It didn't used to do this. But now if your video isn't doing as well as you thought it might do, you can actually look and see TikTok will actually say your video has suppressed reach because of this reason. It's not going to the For You page because of this reason. But generally speaking, MrBeast is right. It's not the algorithm. It's just you got to work on the content. And it is the worst advice for creators to hear, but I also think it's the best advice. Because if the algorithm hates you, if you're doing something really wrong with the algorithm aside from uploading content, which you can change, if you're shadow banned or something, you can't change that you're shadow banned. You'll have to start a new account. Or if you're banned, you got to start a new account. But if you're just making bad content, or if you're uploading the wrong way, that you can fix. And I think that's very liberating and great to hear. I think it's motivating to hear. And that's what I told Vova. I said, Vova, make 100 videos. And after 100 videos, then you'll actually have a good idea of things that are important and things that are not. And we can grow together. And that is episode 411 of my daily digital marketing podcast. I didn't plan on reading this on the episode. And I'm glad that I did, because I only skimmed it when I got it the first time. And this was my first time reading the full thing through, and it's very good. It's a great reminder of all these different principles and concepts. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. You can tell I'm having a good day. I got a big smile on my face. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.